There are all kinds of theories about how to motivate people. This team had not won a single Indian Super League football match. One of their key players was in awful form. Nothing he did went right for the team. The press was constantly writing about him and asking him to be sacked. There was tremendous pressure on this young boy. He was dreaming of him being sacked from the team. On the evening of the first match of their first ISL match, the coach came to him and tapped him on his shoulder and said, "I would like to speak to you." This young boy was nervous. He began to prepare for the worst, to be sacked and kept out of the league games. The coach said, "Son, I know these few months have been very bad and stressful for you. Everyone's wondering whether we can make it to the playoffs. You know there is a lot of pressure. I have had to make a decision." The boy had visions of being taken off. Then the coach continued, "If our team is going to win this year," he said, looking straight into the boy's eye, "they are going to win with you playing in the starting 11. Come what may. You are staying in the starting job." That's all I wanted to say. Slowly, within the weeks, the boy begins to get his form back, and because of his manager's encouragement, something in him was turning around. He found himself playing the best football of his career. They won 13 games out of 14. There are all kinds of theories about how to motivate people. We can do it through guilt, through fear, through shame, but these were not Jesus' methods. Jesus motivated through positive messages of hope and encouragement. Consider our gospel message for today. Jesus says to his followers, "You are the light of the world." Can you imagine that? Here was a group of farmers and fishermen and tax collectors and housewives in a tiny and remote village in an obscure part of the world, and Jesus was saying to them, "You are the light of the world." Talk about a statement of faith. Let's go farther. Talk about a crazy idea. Light of the world, that bunch. It must have sounded absurd at the time even to them. Only Jesus could have seen that through this group of men and women, God would indeed change the world forever. At the time, however, it probably sounded like so much idle chatter. "You are the light of the world," he said. And so they were. And you know what? So are we. Jesus says to us today that we are the light of the world. Think about that for a moment. Sink your teeth into it, savor it. You and I are the light of the world. What does it mean? Well, let me suggest some possibilities. First, it means, first of all, that we have a responsibility for the world. That makes sense, doesn't it? We are the light of the world. A lighthouse steers ships away from the rocks. A light bulb lights up a room. Light does not exist for its own glory, but to brighten up the world. That is the first thing Jesus is saying to us. We have a responsibility for the world. I was reading recently about one of the most remarkable young men who ever lived. He was a young man who had been left blind in both eyes by a childhood accident. In the 19th century France, when this young man lived, blind children had little help and few hopes. But then a kind priest, Father Jacques Palouy, took an interest in the boy. He was amazed at the boy's intelligence and eagerness to learn. With his parents' permission, Father Palouy enrolled the boy in the Royal Institute of Blind Youth in Paris. Thrust into a new and frightening environment, the boy was lonely and depressed. In time, however, he found friendship and encouragement. Unfortunately, he was frustrated by the Institute's lack of books in raised print. He also found the symbols in raised print confusing. So he set out at 12 years of age to invent his own system. After 3 years, he perfected the method, but he encountered indifference and hostility when he tried to convince the world that his system was better. Even with the support of the Institute's director, he was told again and again that he was too young to have created a workable alphabet for the blind. Years passed. This young man grew older, was made a teacher at the Institute, and became a fine organist, always hoping that his method would find acceptance. But his health was frail. It was not until he lay in bed, dying of tuberculosis, that he heard that the first steps were being taken to popularize his system. Though he did not live to witness it, Louis Braille's alphabet became the universal method of reading for the blind. His courage and hunger for knowledge enabled him to triumph over disability and disease and open new worlds to future generations. Louis Braille became light for those whose physical eyes had failed them. How wonderful it is when a young person set out to make the world a better place. We have a responsibility for the world. Secondly, we also have something that the world desperately needs. That is the second thing Jesus was saying when he said that we are the light of the world. We have something the world cannot find anywhere else. Mother Teresa was speaking to persons who had come to meet her from all over the world. She once spoke to a group of superior generals of many religious congregations from various parts of the world. After a talk, she asked if there were any questions. "Yes, I have one," a woman sitting near the front said. "As you know," she said, "most of the orders represented here have been losing members. It seems that more and more women are leaving all the time, and yet your order is attracting thousands upon thousands. What do you do?" Without hesitating, Mother Teresa answered, "I give them Jesus." "Yes, I know," said the woman, "but take habits, for example. Do your women object to wearing habits and the rules of the order? How do you do it?" "I give them Jesus," Mother Teresa replied. "Yes, I know, Mother," said the woman, "but can you be more specific?" "I give them Jesus." Mother Teresa repeated again. "Mother," said the woman, "we are all of us aware of your fine work. I want to know about something else." Mother Teresa said quietly, "I give them Jesus. There is nothing else." What do we have that the world cannot find anywhere else? All we have is the person of Jesus Christ. We live in a multi-religious, multicultural, and multilingual country, and we can learn many things from different people. If someone should ask you, though, what is distinctive about Christianity, let me suggest you do as Mother Teresa did. Give them Jesus. We are not the source of our light. We are but reflectors of a much greater source. There is one who has touched our lives and given us the power and the authority to touch others. A college sociology professor once asked his students to go into the slums to get case histories of 200 young boys. The students were asked to write an evaluation of each boy's future. In every case, the students wrote, "He hasn't got a chance." 25 years later, Another sociology professor came across the earlier study. He had his students follow up on the project to see what had happened to these boys. With the exception of 20 boys who had moved away or died, the students learned that 176 of the remaining 180 had achieved extraordinary success as lawyers, doctors, and businessmen. The professor was astounded and decided to pursue the matter further. Fortunately, all the men were in the area, and he was able to ask each one, "How do you account for your success?" In each case, the reply came with feeling. There was a teacher. That teacher was still alive, so he sought her out and asked the elderly but still alert woman what magic formula she had used to pull these boys out of the slums into successful achievement. The teacher's eyes sparkled and her lips broke into a gentle smile. "It's really very simple," she said. "I loved those boys. No wonder those boys succeeded. Their teacher loved them." Once there was a teacher who also loved his students. He saw possibilities in them that no one else saw in them. He saw possibilities in them they did not see in themselves. "You are the light of the world," he said to them. And so they became. The love they had received from him, they passed on to others. Today, there is no place in this world that the light they have received from him doesn't shine. Because of fierce persecution, it is sometimes only a faint flicker. Sometimes, because of the weaknesses of his followers, the fire is uncertain and tentative, but still it glows. And now it is in your possession and mine. We are the light of the world. Years ago, we as a group of boys decided to go into the thick forest for a picnic. We spent the day there and had lots of fun. However, it got evening and soon it was pitch dark and we were totally lost. We did not know how to come out of this forest. Eventually, one of us looked off in the distance and saw a faint glow of light. It looked like there was a small town out there. We began walking through the forest. With each meter we traveled, the light became brighter and more distinct. There was a town out there. Soon the light became intense enough to illuminate our path. We wound up at a roadside restaurant and called for help. We friends got home safely because we saw a distant light and walked in its glow. It became an overwhelming beacon that led us to where we needed to go. I don't believe that I am being overly dramatic when I say there are people in this world who are lost in darkness and they are looking for light, any light, to lead them to spiritual, emotional, and mental safety. How about your light? Is it shining? Could they find their way home because of you? You and I are the light of the world. We have a responsibility for the world. We have what the world desperately needs. We are not the source of the light, but merely reflectors of the true light of Jesus Christ. Amen.